Right, so we'll take our seats. I'll bring up to speed where I am, me, myself and my good lady. For those who haven't met her, this is the other half of the tag team. Right, my name is Rob. I come from, well, living in the borough of Wigan at the moment. I use that word very precisely because what's happened here, I pulled back from the scene a while back there because I'm finding there's too many idiots on the scene, there's too many people who don't know what it is they're trying to achieve rather than destroying something. Can you hear me okay, yeah? And I want to be building something, repairing something, fixing something rather than destroying something. There's too many people out there, particularly from a certain political persuasion, interested in breaking things for the sake of breaking things. It's like a child sort of lashing out at the parents round about it with no end objective. And the question I ask a lot of people is, why are you doing this? What is it you want out of it? It's amazing how many people can't answer that simple question. Yeah, but I'm angry. Well, children get angry and lash out. What are we trying to build? So just to clarify, what the purpose and reason I'm doing this civil disobedience, if you can use that phrase, is the justice system is broken. There is no law. Right? It's become more apart as years go on. There is no law. It's who you know, what you know. And that might have been okay in the 1700s and 1800s when the way things were back then. Nowadays we're more wiser. We've got rid of these sort of ruling class. However, there's a new group trying to think, the new political guys are trying to say they're the ruling class. And we should have recourse to the law, because without law, it's chaos. Yeah? And that suggests at the moment we're entering a phase of absolute chaos, because there's no definable law. And this council tax, to me, the reason I took this specifically on was, and other people have taken other areas on, I've gone for council tax, so I see this as absolutely core. One, because there's been a change of regime. Two, change of authority over us. And three, it exposes how the magistrates' courts haven't got a clue what they're doing. Rather than administering justice, administering right and wrong, they're administering the rules. And I'm for rule of law, not law of rules. It's a little phrase I picked up from somebody else, but I do like that. Yeah, I want rule of law, not law by rules. And Europe's bringing in law by rules. Last night there was I don't know if anyone else caught it on the live stream. There was a big conference in London. It's the Go campaign, getting out of Europe, the Brexit campaign. And you had Farage and was our chap's name again? George Galloway sharing the platform. Right, totally diverse political views, but they agree on one thing: we need justice and we need one government. We need control over who governs us, because without that, it's just a dictatorship. So they mean a dichotomy of left and right now, if you can use those terms, now coming together, finding common cause. Because what's happening is the European Union, amongst other things, has demolished the concept of good governance in this country. So we do need good governance. Okay, so I'm here to build things, we're here to repair things, I'm here to point out problems so they can be sorted. Okay, not to destroy. And when people come, some of the guys I've met who seem to be obsessed with just destroying the system, hating the man, go back to your kindergarten. You're not an adult. Go away, think about it. You tend to find these are young people. When we're all young, we're all lashed out. We didn't know a lot. Hormones were fired left, right and centre. And we got angry very easily. And instead of fixing things, you lashed out at the man. You felt helpless. You felt you could put at disadvantage. We understand that as young people. However, as you get older, you change your views. You become more wise. Most of us become more wise. You become more adult and more measured in how you approach the world. So this is, hopefully, I've sort of changed my views. I'm no longer the angry young man I used to be. And I do see the law's got a good purpose. I do see we do need some form of governance. We may disagree in that wildly. However, we can't just demolish it all. Okay. Right, now, are you all aware of the court case? I'm going to bring this to your attention now. Right, there was a court decision May last year in the Royal Courts of Justice, and it was in the High Court, Court of Justice, Queen's Bench Division Administrative Court in London. And the case was before Mrs. Justice Andrews, DBE, and it's the Reverend Paul Nicholson against Tottenham Magistrates. So he's taken on the Magistrates Court regarding the costs for council tax. Now with council tax, there's two issues there. One is the costs, and two is the actual council tax itself. I've got huge problems with council tax. Not the fact that we've got to pay for repairs on roads and all good stuff. We've got to pay for that, yeah, I understand that. However, there's a lot of that council tax money going into other places, and there's absolute radio silence. They shut. I've got 37 freedom of information requests now refused, reasonable ones, on the grounds that it's vexatious. And I'm asking questions of how many employees are employed by that council, by that. That's a vexatious request, apparently. They have shut the barriers down and do not want to give us information, because they know every time they write to me, they give me something. Like a Jack Russell on a rat, you know, it's like, I'm on it. So they don't write to me anymore. They are also claiming, because I'm part of a local activist group, absolutely we are, that we're troublemakers, and on that basis they're not going to provide information. I'll talk in junctions after the main thing, right? This is the route to go down. So this case was a chap who was representing two old people who were challenging the costs and the council tax. Now, I won't go through the full case. Afterwards I'll write it down. I'll cite the case number for the camera. So you'll find it on bailli.org. It's www.bailli.org. That's the British and Irish Legal Library Institute or something. bailli.org, there's all cases in there. And the case number you're looking for is case number CO/976/2014. Right, now we can quote this is an authority. Okay, so essentially this guy got two pro bono barristers to represent him. What the judge did, the lady justice did, was she implemented the law to the letter, to the law, right? No opinions, which is what does the law say? So, in essence, first the decision was this case was brought primarily as a judicial review on the costs that were attached to the council tax order, right? But there's other stuff came out here as well. She stopped short of, because that wasn't part of the actual case. One is the jurisdiction. Now, September last year. After 5 years of sort of flailing around and trying to find out, as we all have, how this all works, right? I've come to the conclusion, the courts know as much as we do. They're just going along with it. They don't know exactly what authority they're operating under. They don't know the jurisdiction unless the emergency power has been exercised, which is an option. In front of I attended the court. Stuff I can't see in front of the camera. But I attended the hearing. And what they had is a case in front of us, like an assault case, and afterwards was like drug dealing or something. So there was a criminal court in front of the district judge, apparently. So I went in there straight away and challenged who the complainant was, right? Because again, for new people that know this, right? Wigan has multiple identities regarding its council. There's Wigan Council, Wigan Borough Council, Metropolitan Borough of Wigan Council, Wigan Metropolitan Borough Council, the Metropolitan Borough of Wigan Council, and probably a raft of other ones. You can check this because you do a credit check on them, you find they're all independent credit entities, right? They're not the same thing, despite what judges and their delusions seem to think, right? If I come up with different identities and go and do business with them, that's fraud. I go to jail. A part of the councils can't bring fraud against a council, right? But the judge apparently thought this was acceptable, these multiple identities, even though the court listing cited Wigan Metropolitan Borough Council. The paperwork was Wigan Borough Council because of us, we forced them to change the paperwork 2 years ago from Wigan Council to Wigan Borough Council. And then all the payments have to be made to Wigan Council. 3 entities there, right? If I was a double glazing company, you wouldn't go in near them, okay? If I was saying I'm going to do some work for you, pay me, but pay into this other account with another company because they don't have too many questions, right? You would refuse, okay? There's a thing called money laundering laws. So anyway, the hearing had been going for quite some time, 10-15 minutes, and the judge was asking me all sorts of questions and trying to start the case and blah 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 blah, and I said, I don't know who they are. So he said, well, I'm satisfied who they are. On what basis? He says, what evidence have you got? I said, I can't bring evidence, sir. For a start, I don't know the rules and procedures of this hearing, and this is key. I don't know the rules and procedures of the hearing. I can't present a rebuttal, a counterclaim, a defence. I can't present it because I don't know what rules and procedures are governing this. Are we under criminal, civil, or are we just making up as we go along? And my view, as I expressed to the court, was the latter. We're making it up as we go along. Making shit up was the phrase that he used. So I'd written to the court a month in advance asking for a copy of the rules and procedures. I said, so I don't know what level of evidence we're working to here, sir. I don't know what paperwork I've got to fill out. I don't know who I've got to address. I don't know where to serve papers on. I know nothing. I don't serve papers on PO boxes. And Wigan, they use PO boxes. You can't serve papers on PO boxes. I said, I can't even serve documents. So he says, well, essentially, he failed to see my point. I says, human rights, sir. I'm entitled to fair and impartial tribunal hearing unless otherwise directed by law. I don't see any law that allows them to divert from rules and procedures by giving me a fair and impartial hearing. There's nothing out there. I've asked for it and nobody says to give us anything. So at that point he got a bit flustered. He seemed like a decent bloke, I'll be honest, he seemed like a decent bloke. You know, his lodge must love him. But he did seem to be floundering a bit. So I said, listen, let's see, this hearing doesn't proceed any further. Now we're 15 minutes into the hearing, into this exchange. And I said, what jurisdiction are we under? I need to know what jurisdiction we're under. So he tried to flummox and he said, it's the Magistrates' Court's rules. I said, what are they? I've never heard of them. What are they? Don't exist. What are they? At one point he turned round to the guy from who's representing, let's say, the council. He called himself a council representative, so I'll call him that. And he asked, the judge asked him for direction of the jurisdiction and authority the hearing was going to run under and the rules and procedures. At what point, now I'm sitting, remember, I'm between criminal cases, so there's lawyers, families, there's a room full of people there for these other cases. So it should have been a private hearing, right, in front of these other people. So I turned round to the court and I says, have you just heard that the judge asked for direction of the council? We've now 15 minutes in the hearing and he's asking for direction from the council.
Incompetent on the part of the judge. It shouldn't be sitting.
Yeah, that's a legal determination. I'm not going to make it at this point. I'll let the courts decide that one. But so anyway, the next, just explaining this is where I am now, right? It's gone simple. It's gone simple. So at that point, the guy from the council said Magistrates Courts Act 1980. At which point I asked him to clarify that. Are you stating that the authority and the rules of this hearing are the Magistrates Courts Act 1980? Yes. So again, I turned round to the court, I asked everybody to acknowledge that. I was threatened with contempt. This is under what jurisdiction? We didn't, then he started the court. So then I offered the judge, after clarifying with him in the court, it was Magistrates Courts Act, and everybody's nodding away and one thing or another. I says, have you read, can I give you a bit of paper? What it was, I printed off section 121 part 5. So section 121 part 5. Of the Magistrates Courts Act 1980, which states that when a single justice is sitting in a hearing, he can't issue a money order over £1. Okay, that's for a single justice. And for the last 5 years, I've had a single justice. My wife stood there in tears facing down judges in the past. I was so proud of her for that. So that's it. People have got to trust each other. If you know it's right, don't be afraid. Just because your other side, just because your other half has, you know, made the cotton wool and frightened their own shadow, you've got to stand your ground, guys. What they rely on, what they've tried to do with us, is get us fighting with each other. So they know I'm firm, I'm standing my ground, so they start writing to her and bringing her to court instead, try to cause arguments. All it does, and I'm proud to say, makes us stronger. My wife trusts me implicitly, you know. So, but I know what's right. I know what's right and wrong, guys. It's just I know what's right and wrong. Okay. Anyway, so section 121 part 5 says on a single justice, right? He confirmed he was a single justice. I say to no jurisdiction. He goes, well, I fail to see that's any relevance. Right. Okay. So what the hell's happened here now? That was evidence of absolute chaos, of judges not doing their jobs, of Justice Clerk sat there silent the whole time. The judge isn't dropped in it, remember. It's the Justice Clerk who's setting this all up. He's just the guy, the judge is just the guy who's sitting there, supposed to be making a decision, right? Asking questions. The Justice Clerk is no power there. They screwed up. I'll be polite, they screwed up, right? I would actually go a lot deeper than that, but for the camera I won't. The Justice Clerk has been improperly applying the law. The Justice Clerk has been criminally misapplying the law, unlawfully applying the law, and evidence of that is that case I was talking about earlier on there. This was handed to me a couple months ago. I've had absolute fun with this thing, right? Now, I defy any Justice Clerk to take on a senior judge from the Queen's Bench. Okay, this is where we'll be heading soon. So essentially, one of the issues, the main issues that they caused, right? Covering the main issue of this hearing, The costs must be, again, the judge read literally from the regulations, not anyone's interpretation of the regulations, the word of the regulations. So where it says, the councils, and this is all councils across the UK, right, have been misapplying jurisdiction, right? They've been misapplying criminal. They actually thought that this case that this is referred to, right? They actually initially, the court, magistrates court, was operating under criminal regime when they weren't following criminal procedures and rules. She's turned around, and I'll give the quote in a minute. Said it's not criminal. So the question is, what is it? What is the jurisdiction? So she's turned around and said it's not criminal, it's not civil, it doesn't operate under civil procedures and rules, however it's like civil. Okay? Now that opens up a whole can of worms. It's like civil, we're just making shit up. Remember I said there's three choices, criminal, civil, we're making shit up. Okay? Under civil, the civil law requires reasonableness. It's based upon the premise of reasonableness. So the courts, the councils and the courts, based upon some stuff that happened in Wales a few years back there, have been applying the court costs based upon what they deem to a reasonable amount. That's civil law. This isn't civil law. And the judges quite clearly said that given the nature of the public interest in the issues of this case, the court would be at a severe disadvantage if it did not have the opportunity to hear and test the legal argument opposing the grant of relief, as well as the legal argument supporting it. Indeed, had the council taken a different stance, it might have been necessary to appoint an amicus curiae. That would mean they would go in there and issue an order to the council to expose what's happening here. Under the civil system, allied with the complaint that the magistrates appear to have confused the reasonableness of the amount of the costs with the question of whether that sum was reasonably incurred, and the regulations state reasonably incurred. It's not there for, and the judge is quite clearly stating here, it's not an opinion. It have those costs been reasonably incurred. So you must provide receipts for them. And it's per case, not bulk, not 1,000 cases, per case. The judge, and they were trying to argue it costs was doing the cost per case is prohibitive. The judge said, we don't care. I'm reading the regulations. It says the case, individual, must be reasonably incurred. So they have to break down the costs per case. See that they've been misinterpreting the regulations, right? Well, this judge is just going back to the regs. Now, what shocked me, first of all, the big one there, was the fact that the magistrates court was mistakenly operating this under criminal law. Now, we, 3 years ago, were forced to attend one of these sham hearings because we got, after numerous times declining their kind offer to come and resolve an issue we didn't see an issue, and against somebody we didn't recognise, party we didn't recognise, we were issued a letter from the Director of Director of Criminal, HMCTS, Criminal Division, CTS. This is this is down in London. This is the top man in charge of criminal. Mainhart, in her name, she was issued a letter to attend court or a warrant was issued. That sounds like bloody criminal to me, doesn't it? Right? So on that basis, I was like, what then? They're playing the game here. So he turned up, told the judge of disgrace and walked out. But we turned up, you know. So anyway, I mean, I'll urge you to read through this, guys. I promise you, every line you'll get dynamite. So the jurisdiction hasn't been answered in this. We still don't know the jurisdiction. I'll tick making shit up is my choice. So determining the decision, whether it was lawful or not. That's the words here. Whether the magistrates' courts had any or sufficient relevant information before them to reach a proper judicial determination. Now, if you're going to be cost reasonably accrued, you must be able to show, you must be able to prove that's what have incurred, right? And it's from the time of the sum the summons been issued to the decision been made, not collections and nothing before that. It's only that small window is when they can reasonably incur costs. Now, for those of you who don't know, there's a Magistrates Courts Fees Order 2014. There was a lot of dispute and debate about what the Magistrates Courts could cost, what they could charge per case for submitting the documents, right? And there was a Conservative politician a few years back asking in Parliament, and they were told £3. That was wiped off the net. All records of that were wiped off the net, just disappeared overnight, because we started quoting it. But it was reiterated in the Magistrates Courts Fees Order 2014, where it states they can only charge, Magistrates Court can charge £3 for costs. Fine, so that's £3, fine, no problem with that. It's the other amount. In our case, it was 65. Two different documents, one said 65 quid, one said 72. Anyway, that's another issue. So the question was that reasonably incurred? Just point blank refused to answer it. Now what the judge has said here is that she wants to see before the judge a full detailed breakdown with receipts and evidence to confirm costs were actually incurred, not reasonably, actually incurred, right? And the judge then will go through those and decide which ones were incurred, and which ones are irrelevant. That's what should happen at every single hearing, right? Not just saying, yeah, that sounds about right. Now, we wrote to the various parties asking for a breakdown. Last year, we asked for a breakdown of the council tax. Where does it go? Right? The costs. Where does it go? Not the council tax, the costs for now. They refused to answer. So we did it through the local paper, right? When the local journal was done an FOI on our behalf, I basically wrote it for them. And they come back with a sheet of estimates. So 26,000 summonses the year before last, 23,000 summonses last year. This isn't a few hundred. Right? This is, they're going, what they're doing, they brought a private company in now to run the council tax department, and they're now on a bonus scheme, I presume. What they're doing, they're going back with people who missed the council tax payment 10 years ago, which is beyond the statute of limitations of 6 years, right? And they're trying to collect off the people 10 years ago, no money from 10 years ago. So this is all really, really nasty they're getting now. So we asked for a breakdown. So it was it's talking about administrative costs and blah blah blah. And it's all estimated in 26,000, which seems a very round number to me. And then next year 23,000, another very round number. That should be a precise number. One of the freedom of information requests they've refused is how many summonses were actually issued. A friend of mine, I've got to be very careful to say here, a friend of mine suspects a serious fraud's taking place. That what they're doing, they're actually creating false cases, right, based upon people who have left the borough and people who have died. And what they're doing, they're transferring money using that means into the mainstream, and they're laundering money doing it that way. However, that's his opinion. I cannot comment on camera right, on that one. However, I do have some sympathies with his views. I haven't seen the evidence that there is money shifting around. And if you go online, there's a thing called CAFR, C-A-F-R, I forget what it stands for now, but basically this is dodgy accounting, where money disappears into private reserve funds and you can't ask too many questions and one thing or another. The same's happening here, and it's to do with private reserve funds again within the councils. Ask questions about it, the door slams in your face, we're not allowed to know this. And there's an outfit called CIPFA, the Chartered Institute of Public Finance Administrators, CIPFA, who are training up all the council tax collections people, and they're basically training up anyone who's anything to do with government revenues, okay? And they're a highly dubious outfit, because I actually wanted to do it at sitting one of the courses, 600 quid. I thought that would be worth its weight in gold. Not allowed. You must be an approved employee of a council. So it's not public then. The public aren't allowed to these. What are they talking about? The public can't find out about. Right, so right, so in the findings, the judge quite clearly slammed the other side. Now, interestingly, what the judge has intimated here that the council, this is a big point, the council is not the principal. This is a huge, I will use the phrase, fuck up. It's been going for a long, long time. You cannot, an agent can't take a case can't take a case against you. Only the principal can. They can hire a representative, but the principal must bring the case. The councils, in this respect, are not the principal. They are the agent. The good lady doesn't actually go into who the principal is here. I'm pretty damn certain it's the Treasury solicitor. Right? And I've got paperwork away at the moment on that one. I'll clarify that, right? That the principal, they're collecting this money. They've borrowed money from the Treasury, and as private entities, the Treasury was repaid. So they've now commercialised that debt, and we're sureties for it, by the way. Try to keep things simple. We're deemed to be sureties for this debt, yeah. Hence why these courts, if you go a little detraction, if you look at commercial law dictionaries and stop reading legal dictionaries, throw them in. Legal dictionaries are a joke. Get a commercial law dictionary. Look at the word summons or look at the word call in, and you'll find they're interchangeable. A call-in is when you call in sureties to make good on their guarantee, on their pledge, right? In our case, it's, I suppose, allegedly an adhesion contract that's creating this pledge, right? We didn't actually sign anything, but that's why we're getting dragged into these tribunal hearings. There's a thing called a call-in procedure, there's a thing called a call-in tribunal. And if you actually read, I don't know your council, but if you go to the Wigan Council constitution, I think I read a lot. Nobody else seems to, maybe one or two in this room, but nobody reads the council constitutions. And that's why they get away with this shit, because we don't read the constitutions, right? There's a whole section here appeared a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, called call-in procedures. There's another one called Chief Executive and Emergency Powers. There's an interesting one to bring your attention. With the Chief Executive now under emergency powers granted to her, under the Resilience Committee, which is one of the new precepts, has the power to issue emergency orders, and she only has to tell the mayor and I think it's the borough business manager. That's it. Doesn't have to tell the councillors, doesn't have to tell us. That sounds very much like a dictatorship to me. Remember Adolf Hitler? He brought his order based upon the Reichstag getting burned down. It was a Führer order. This is Führer orders. This to me is they may call it what they want, emergency powers, resilience committee, whatever that means. But when the chief executive has the power to issue emergency orders, which are under, I can't find where the limit is of those emergency orders. This is issued under granted orders by the Secretary of State. We can't find where these emergency orders, there's no reason to tell us. In fact, they're obligated not to tell us. So we, not last year, year before in court, I had them backed into a corner, in a slightly different argument, and at that point the guy from the council went up to judge with a bit of paper, and if you see the top of it, Wigan Council, I'm objecting, like you're shouting at the top of my voice, objection, 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 because I hadn't seen this document. I don't know if you know, under rules and procedures, I believe I'm entitled to see documents before they're submitted to the judge, and have them in my possession. This guy went up to the judge, handed him a letter, I wasn't allowed to see it, and asked the question, is that an emergency order you've just been issued to defend against? Because I beat them. I'd backed it, I beat them in the court. Is this an emergency order? At which point the judge went from being reasonable judge, interested in the law and reading the law, into just being a total shit. Right? Because I know he'd just been issued an emergency order, defend against them. And this is what we're up against, guys, these emergency orders. What emergencies created there? Well, none I've created. I've not created any emergencies. And Wigan, I don't know, I step out in the back garden and there's birds tweeting and worms digging underground and kids running around. There's no emergencies, this is all invented emergencies. Climate change, we're diverting here, climate change and all, terrorism and all the stuff that they're exaggerating beyond all reasonable expectations to justify them becoming a dictatorship, issuing emergency powers. And one thing we got rid of Cromwell for, like the Civil War, the end of the Civil War, was because he became Mr. Emergency Powers. That to us was more distasteful than having a bent king. Okay, we've now got bent kings in power. And I would argue, maybe not fiefdom under the fiefdom, fiefdom itself is dead, they've brought in a completely new form of this, which is debt bondage. You by being in a territory, and I won't go into the military law thing just now, but we are under occupation, we're under law of occupation in this country, and for those who haven't read it, you can go online, you can download the Joint Services Manual 2004, which is the British Army rule book, and how to deal with occupied territories. It's for free, download it off the net, and then jump to the section occupied territories, right, and replace, section 11, replace the words occupied territory in your mind with Britain. And it's absolutely, Iraq was the testing ground to see how they could use it against the rest of us, okay? So the Joint Services Manual, we are under law of occupation. Now you know we're under law of occupation. Now we know we're under law of occupation, we now know the rules that we're abiding by. A judge can, if you actually read the Judicial Code of Conduct, when I first read it 5-6 years ago, you can see the wording, they're avoiding saying something. If you go back and read, I think, in martial law or emergency powers, that's what the gaps are, right? So a judge can, without telling you, convert from being a judge, civilian judge, into being a judge advocate without telling you. You can adopt a different stance without telling you, right? Because it's all emergency and necessary, and there's little brown fellas out there with bombers, and God's now dropping stuff in the skies and stuff, you know. But that, sorry, I'm tracing mercy powers, right? We've never been occupied in this country, and the very concept, the very thought that we are under law of occupation is, to me, the gravest assault on my person, my freedom, and that whole family. To claim you're under law of occupation. I am not an occupied territory. I'm not an occupied agent.
We're also occupied by EU.
EU. It's actually the United Nations. The day we signed the European Charter, the United Nations Charter was a surrender or capitulation. Anyway, do read up on the law of occupation. I promise you'll go, he's right. Okay, this is not a talking law of occupation. Right, so, have you all seen this book, The Magistrate's Courts Guide? Right, you can go on Amazon. This is a second-hand copy, it's out of date now, but the rules don't change, the regulations haven't changed. This deals with everything from your speeding tickets to minor criminal offences, minor offences to council tax. There's a big chunk in there of council tax, it's like that. Deal with council tax, right? That is, you can quote that, and that is the rule book they've got to comply with in the courts. Liability orders. I've written to the court, now under the Magistrates Courts Fees Order 2014, it says in there, for a tenner, you can have 10 documents and then £1 for every document you're after. Right. So I've sent them a post order 20 quid through. Give me the. We've all been asking for the liability orders, haven't we? Everybody's been asking for a copy of these, right? This is now like a statutory. We've found a statutory duty to provide us this. Use the Magistrates Courts Fees Order 2014. Quote them. They've got a statutory obligation now. It's not opinion. Right? They can't refuse it. Give me the liability order. The Senior Justice Clerk at Wigan's now trying every trick in the book to not answer these questions. I've also asked for a copy, and you're entitled to these, a copy of the rules and procedures governing that hearing. I think everyone's saying, if you've no access to the rules and procedures, even where they are to read them, you can't have a fair and impartial tribunal hearing. That's a fairly major human rights violation, right there. That's nearly concluded that exchange with them. And I've clarified that also something maybe you may not know about. Organisations that carry a quality assurance mark, which is HMCTS in the courts, right, must have a quality assurance manual, which means every aspect of the work that company does must be defined, right? And that includes every document that's got a number on it. So every document you get from any organisation which has got a number at the bottom of it, that's the quality assurance number. It has to follow a prescribed process to get to that document, right? Who signs it, where they sign it, when they sign it, it's all there. I've done quality assurance manuals in the past, that's why I know about this. A lot of stuff we get doesn't have numbers on the bottom of it, which worries me because it doesn't follow any prescribed quality assurance mark. However, when they're saying we issued a liability order, that liability order should be, it carries a number, it must carry a number, yeah? However, when you ask for a copy of it, they're not providing it. So that you can ask them to see the section of the quality assurance manual that they have, which results in the issuance of a liability order. Because if they don't have it, or they haven't been complying with it, you've now got a very serious complaint to your accrediting body, and you can lose them their accreditation. And trust me, your insurance goes through the roof if you lose your accreditation. They'll defend that more than they'll defend their jobs. Trust me, the top guys will sacrifice people left, right and centre to hang on to that accreditation mark, okay? So if you find that this is any organisation, councils, police, everybody, they've all got quality assurance accreditation. If you question it, you can, absolutely, if you get into business with that organisation, go in there and demand to inspect the quality assurance manual. You can also do a freedom of information request, absolutely you can. What have they got to hide? Right, so anyway, regarding rules and procedures, I've asked for a copy of the quality assurance manual regarding the rules and procedures governing magistrates, courts, hearings for council tax. That should be in the quality assurance manual. I'll guarantee it's not. They're stepping outside the quality assurance manual, which is a very serious complaint. Now, regarding the liability orders, I'll try and not to talk more about this. Regarding liability orders, right, there is no liability orders, they're all digital now. Right, they've all been hypothecated, monetised, securitised, sold on. They've already been sold on. Before you go in court, they've been sold on. That debt's been sold on. Okay? So they're now prosecuting you on behalf of a third-party principal who owns that debt. So it's either the Treasury or some third-party private body has bought that debt. Okay? So whoever's in court claiming to be the council, hence why I do all this nonsense, whoever's in the court claiming to the council is actually acting as agent for somebody who's bought and owns that debt. Okay? So that's a big one. So you can demand these documents using the Magistrates Court's Fees Order 2014. I sent through a postal order, 20 quid, and told you to keep the change. Worth it. 100 quid, I'll send you 100 quid. Give me the documents. So, unfortunately for them, they're now in the shit because they've given this thing called the Memorandum of Extract of Magistrates Court's Register. And that apparently is evidence of liability order. No, it's not. It says in there that I don't care about liability orders, it's the enforcement we've got to worry about. The states in here, where is it? Yeah, I need to use the whole book. But it states there quite clearly that summons, enforcement can only follow the issuance of a liability order. So if there is no, I don't give a shit about the registers, I don't give a crap about the memorandum, I want a liability order because it stays in there, they must have it. And the 1992 Council Tax Administration Enforcement Regs, because this judge, remember she's going by the letter of the regulations, no interpretation by the letter of regulations, the letter of regulations says they must issue a liability order. Well, they're not doing that, so they're actually in breach of the regulations. Now, another issue, just to go before we go to the solution side of things. What's happened? There's been a change of regime, right? We used to have the boroughs and county councils, they were our authorities, yeah, under Her Majesty the Queen by Royal Charter. Hence why Wigan have forced them to change all the paperwork from Wigan Council to Wigan Borough Council, recognising the proper jurisdiction. Wigan Council, I can call myself Mr. Wigan Council. It's meaningless, right? Anyway, blah blah blah, I won't talk too much about that one. Now what's happened is there's been a regime change, it brought in administrative divisions, both of them military words, law of occupation if you read up on it, they're both military words. Under law of occupation, what they can do, the occupying power, we start using this word power properly, the occupying power can impose a local administrative tax on the civilians within that area. That's what council tax has turned into, right? That's how it's been enforced. Okay, claiming some sort of emergency, etc. We can now play with that because what we can do. Oh yeah, and I'm opposed to that because I don't know who the authorities are now. I don't know who's in charge. And that can be bought and sold. That can be private. That can be bought and sold. We can be bought and sold tomorrow, right? So I don't know who these administrative authorities are. I work with counties and boroughs, thank you, because I know where they are. And I know people who are accountable in them. There'll be some form of democracy, some form of accountability. And last night, George Galloway and Farage on the stage said the same thing. Under the European Union, we have no democracy, no accountability. It's a dictatorship. There's no democracy. And George Galloway was very, very, very vocal about it. I agree. Nobody's accountable. You write these people. I'm actually getting letters now written. The team, council tax team. Because when you go, I want to know the man or the woman who I take to court and name and shame. The team. You know, we've all had that. It's a new thing they're doing. They're dodging away. So there's no accountability.
Yeah, well, I'll just send it straight back saying I don't know who signed this, so
yep.
I can't accept it.
Yep, I need a name.
And especially if it's in the legal name as well.
Who's a responsible person? No responsible person don't exist. So yeah, this is them trying to dodge. We've got them back in the corner, guys. Now, where we go next, I won't say too much on camera. Where we go next is injunctions, right? The rich and famous, the difference between us and the rich and famous is the rich and famous injunct everything round about them. Right? We have guys who have already gone down the route of injunctions. I know some guys who you won't know who have already injuncted their councils. They don't ask for council tax anymore. One of the guys, the police aren't even allowed to talk to him. He's local town. The police aren't allowed to talk to him anymore. We're not doing injunctions. Injunctions are pretty straightforward deals. I've got a number of injunctions going in next week. One of them is human rights violation, right? Based upon gross breach of human rights. I want a mandatory order that the court, not the council, it's not the council's administering the council tax, it's the magistrates court, right? We go for, right? Council's on the agent. If we take this another diversion, they've got us going for the agents, blaming the agents. You need to work out who the principal is. It's because you're wasting time. What they've done is cleverly played us idiots, fighting the agents. I'm not interested in talking to your agent. I want to speak to your boss and his boss to get to the person who ultimately is responsible. We always deal with the agent, or with the principals. So when you take your injunctions, it's got to be to the principal, right? That's who you injunct. Okay. In my case, I'm going down the route of the Treasury solicitor at the moment until he says otherwise. And the court order will issue. He'll have to say it's not him. Yeah. And if you actually go through the trade, they've changed it. It's no longer called the Treasury Solicitor's Office anymore. It's the Government Legal Department. How military does that sound? Department's a military word, by the way.
Department of Defence.
Well, yeah, Ministry of Transport. Tender for anyone that can find it anymore. It morphed quietly without anyone noticing into the Department of Transport. So the militarised guys were under military regime. Anyway, and I don't mean that as sort of, scaring everybody. No, what they've used that mechanism to change the regime on us.
I think you'll find they've all changed the departments. It's no longer the Ministry of Health, it's the Department of Health.
Yeah.
It's no longer the Ministry of Roads, it's the Department of Roads. It's,
Absolutely.
and they tell you it on the news. They actually say it to your face.
How many people have asked about it? How many MPs have challenged that? That's a huge change. That's a fundamental change. Nobody's challenged that. So anyway, it's a change of authority, change of power. Powers and kick
Everyone's to sleep, that's why.
Yeah. Well, not now. Let's go public with this. So anyway, but the Treasury Solicitor's Department is now called the Government Legal Department. If you go through it, my God, it's like common purpose, bloody CVs everywhere. Read through them, right? Anyway, don't matter. I'm bringing it against the Treasury Solicitor to the Royal Courts of Justice, and initially it's not issuing rules and procedures. It would appear they're not following the Quality Assurance Manual. It would appear they're not following the regs, and they're not following that. So there's loads of prescribed things they should do. They're not following them. So the basis of wanting the letter of the law to the exact letter, the exact word of, without any interpretations, there's a big injunction here to force release of those documents or the reasons why they can't issue the documents. So even with military law, they still have to admit it's emergency powers, and I want them to admit we're under emergency powers. This is all been enforced under emergency powers. So there's loads of injunctions you can do. We looked at this as a common law one called a writ of mandamus. We're doing the Royal Courts of Justice, and we can go down the writ of mandamus route, which is common law. Or, I mean, just to make things simpler, just go down just a straightforward civil injunction route. Basically, you can tell people to back off and not do anything. If they touch you, agree or talk to you, it's contempt of court. Well, no, injunctions work. Yeah, there's also Norwich injunctions. You have to look at yourself. I don't spend too much time if you're talking about it. But Norwich injunctions are a clever little approach where they're not allowed to defend themselves. The case is so black and white that the court deems it's not even worth having to defend themselves. So battered wives and stuff. And there was a case against Norwich Pharmaceutical, hence why it's called a Norwich injunction. But there's loads of instances where if you feel afraid or intimidated or discriminated against, well, me three times I've been to court surrounded by the armed police. They're fighting council tax. They're not fighting, they don't fight anymore. Arguing council tax. 3 times I've been surrounded by armed policemen. My wife was there one time. I walked into the court to try and be our power of attorney, which is perfectly under law. Absolutely, it can be our power of attorney. In fact, they've automatically got it. But just to cement that further, we went and got a notarised power of attorney signed off. Right? Refused to hear. The judge refused to let me speak on her behalf. And I'm surrounded. I've got 4 cops like that in the court. And then they ushered me out. So yeah, I'm fucking terrified, and these guys are brutal, and the police do not know the law. The police are in the rear end arguing human rights. We had 18 policemen, me and my friend were in court, 18 policemen with their guns. Cameras in their faces, utter intimidation, absolutely. I don't go to magistrates' courts now because they say I'm too scared. Absolutely, I'm too scared to go to court because I go there, oh my God, I'm going to get threatened, there's security guards threatening me, they're screening me, they're pointing guns, well not pointing guns, but they're carrying guns and sprays and batons and weapons. I don't need that, I'm a peaceful man, I don't need to be threatened. So the injunctions is, I would suggest strongly guys, is the route to go down. She gets it, and this is not as a team, not as a group, right, this is individually, right, but once you've got the format together, start littering them injunctions. So what I'll do is I'll give feedback when I get my injunctions through. But as I say, I've stopped working with other people on this basis now because there's 2 people pulling in different directions and a lot of my heads are full of complete nonsense, right? I just want what's right for me and my family. And if other people choose to do it, that's their choice, right? I'm not here to convince anyone I'm right. I'm not here to join anyone's club or association or gang, right? I'm not here to fight the establishment. I'm not a threat to the military or to the regime that's in power. And this is one thing they do with you, by the way. They deem anyone who's, stop using that word fight, who's fighting the system, who's fighting the regime. You're in the court to show who the boss is, right? you are deemed to be a belligerent under law of occupation, right? Not a good place to be, right? You need to be working with them. Numerous ways you can do that. Conscientious objector is a fantastic route to go down. I am a conscientious objector, I make that clear. I won't pay taxes which I deem are going to go. I need evidence that that money I'm paying in tax is not going to pay for people to get killed, harmed, or whatever, right? You're protected under international law, and for hundreds of years of case law as well, right? You're protected with it. You can go down the religious route. I prefer not to go down that route myself, but I know people who are using the religious route to get down there as they've got a moral compass and they feel, you know, they want some satisfaction that the moral compass is not going to be damaged. You can also use international law by becoming a protected person, and I'm not going to do a lecture on this just now, but you need to go away and look up, just do a Google search for protected person under international law. This is where you need to be a protected person, okay? You can do that as part of an organisation. It's your choice how you do it. As I say, it's an individual journey for people to take individually. If you think you can join a group and they're going to do the paperwork for you, I'm not doing anyone's paperwork. I've got enough time, doing my own paperwork, you know. This is something you need to prove yourself. This is another thing. People need to prove this themselves. The guys who are frontliners in the room, right? You've all been there in the court. You've stood face down the judges. Some of you have come across brutal retaliation. But for people that have never actually stood in front of a judge and stood your ground, hoping somebody else will do it for you, you're a coward. You're a coward. Go and climb back into the woodwork. You're no used to me or anyone else. You're a coward. And unfortunately, as history does state, that unfortunately 4% of any country or any nation at any one time who are prepared to stand up to defend their rights and freedoms. That's 3 to 4%. That's the norm. So we are part of that 3 to 4%. I'm not here to fight the government. I'm not here to just want to correct things. And the first civil war in America, the British Civil War, the Tea Party one, was against tax. They didn't have representation for tax. So I would argue now, we don't have representation either. So the America got its independence because of no representation for tax. They felt so strong enough about it, they wrote it in the Constitution. Council tax. How many people think there's oversight on this council tax? How many people think there's somebody above in the higher levels of government watching this going, that's terrible, I can go to speak to him? Or do we find there's nobody there?
There's no one there, it's an empty seat.
There's nobody there, an empty seat. And this good lady makes reference to that as well. Right? She hints that there should be oversight, there's no proper oversight of it. And there's a phrase she uses about sorry, just bear with me a second. I like this phrase she put out. About abuse of power. This is something in court. This is an actual case in the Royal Courts of Justice. So you can't actually, if you're a police bench lawyer, you can't actually quote this.
But don't you think it's done by design that there's no oversight? I mean, let's be honest, if somebody's not telling you doing wrong, then you're not doing wrong.
It's mafia, how the mafia operates. And he's now an advisor to governments around the world. What he's doing is advising how these private criminal enterprises run their businesses. What's happened is governments went, what's bloody efficient? And he's actually stating himself, governments are copying how the mafia organises itself. Right? So what we've got is, within, say for example, the British government, there's factions fighting each other. Freemasons, you've got multinationals, you've got European Union, you've got the constitutionalists, you've got Protestants, Catholics, Jews, Muslims. You've got all these different factions all fighting for control. And any thought that there's one single government up there, all of one single mind, is, we all know it's abject nonsense, right? It's all gangs fighting for control of that pot of money and that pot of power, right? There's a lot of it. We've got to remember that, right? A couple of quotes from this, just to finish off with. Given the absence of any independent assessment, the scope for abuse of the system is self-evident. This is referring to the Magistrates Court, and that makes it all the more important that due process is observed. I've confirmed there is no, if you don't know rules and procedures, there is no due process. That's a major human rights violation. And it's saying, oh yeah, the court and the council were arguing that he didn't answer the documents. And the judge has quite clearly stated it's not for the individual respondent to demand information. The magistrates court must provide it. They know the law. They have got duties of care, and she clearly clarifies a duty of care in here. The magistrates court have a huge duty of care to provide you information whether they ask for it or not. That's a big one. And it was not the council's fault that the magistrates reached an unlawful decision. Who's the response? Who's? You know, no common law, right? I'll read that again. It was not. This is her final decision, right? It was not the council's fault that the magistrates reached an unlawful decision.
Clerk of the court.
Right. So who is the responsible party there?
Court clerk.
I don't know what clerk of the court is.
Is it
Court clerk.
yeah,
Or
court
just
clerk, or is it the legal advisor?
Justice clerk. Well, it is an interesting one, right? We've had legal advisors. I've asked them, what the hell is a legal advisor? Again, going by the written word of the regulations, it says a justice of the peace, a justice clerk, or an assistant justice clerk. Okay, I went on to legislation.gov and you can download the justice clerk order. It tells you what a justice clerk is, what they do, what their powers are. So I know what he is. It's a job description. I know what he does. And then an assistant justice clerk, the assistant justice clerk's orders, so he can appoint someone to act on his behalf, her behalf. Fine. Again, you can download those, you can read through, oh, I know what an assistant justice clerk is. You can download the judicial code of conduct. Great, I know what a justice's job is. What the hell is a legal advisor? What is a deputy justice's clerk? See, they've used words which people just automatically presume it's the same thing. It's not. I haven't got one document that tells me what the job description of a deputy justice clerk is, or a legal advisor, or a legal team leader, or a legal team manager, or any other crap I'm throwing at us. And I've written to the court, can I have a copy of the job description or the guidelines, so I know who you are, so I know your duty of care is, whether you've breached it or not. This is why they're using these different names, because they know under the existing orders or the existing job descriptions and codes of conduct they will get shot for doing a step outside of using different names. And by doing so, they're dodging the private bond, the professional bond, which they're bonded under, and they're dodging that professional bond. You've got to drag them back into the professional bond. Not regulations state justice clerk, assistant justice clerk. An assistant justice clerk acts under the justice clerk's bond anyway. That's their agent, so you're acting under their bond anyway, or a justice of the peace. That's what regulations say. I will only sit before. You can actually state that. The regulations state that. I can only sit before. And that's the case. If they try to say you must go in front of a legal advisor, under what regime? Where does it say I don't know what a legal advisor is? So these are stuff we need to be standing on the ground with these guys. These little things are tripping points. You can just delay and frustrate. And I frustrate the hell because I'm frustrated, so I want to frustrate back. So, yeah, so I mean, you need to be very careful who you're writing to.
So given that most of us understand that the term legal advisor equals justice's clerk or clerk of the court, so that we need to write to them and ask them to identify, are they actually a clerk?
You're entitled, when you're dealing with an organisation, right, the individual's writing to you, or the team is writing to you, whoever it is, right, to know their code of conduct. Absolutely, because that way they've identified yourself. When you identify someone, you identify the title, but you also must identify your powers, right? And under contract law, it's under contract law, it's identity and capacity. So they must identify their capacity to you. Now, I want to know, and I want to know if you, I'll make sure you don't step inside the code of conduct. So things, if you really want to cause some fun here, and trust me, I've done this in the private world. I do all the time. It happens a lot in the private world, right? If somebody says I'm an agent for XYZ Limited, you go fine, okay, business card, okay, that's fine, right? How much you contracted to operate to? So, I mean, his boss has said you can do deals up to 20 grand, £1 million. Yeah, there's a difference between agencies. An agent hasn't just got carte blanche, right? So, he asks for a copy of their company policy. If they breach a company policy, that's criminal, by the way. The company policy, their insurance policies, you can ask for copies code of conduct, you can ask for copies job description. These should all be available to you to ask for. How many people have done it, these public servants, these supposed public servants? Ask for them. And watch them go, oh, then you write back, the team. You stop talking as individuals, because they don't want you looking at codes of conduct. Every day we're in court, they're chucking codes of conduct at us, aren't they?
What I was going to ask was when they've got these private companies now, like Londonshire Revenue and Benefits Limited, Surely they're supposed to go out to tender before they're actually...
You think so, yeah? They should be, yeah. Unless if they're to implement emergency powers. But yeah, under European and British regulations, they should be tendering it out, absolutely, they should be tendering it out. And if they're not, I'll be asking serious questions why they're not tendering out contract work. That should be on an annual basis as well.
Yeah.
That's where the CAFA question comes in.
Yes, it is a CAFA question, yeah. I'm trying to remember the British version, this is a year ago I looked into that. I've parked that on the shelf to come back to, right? I need to, this liability order is going to open the door because we confirm there's no liability orders and where that money is going to and how it's been handled, that opens the CAFA door, right? That seriously opens the CAFA door.
That's where the money's hidden for the
we're talking
benefit of those
vast
companies.
Vast amounts of money. And I mean, again, a couple of things about council tax, what's it paid for? And I've not even talked about the actual council tax itself, no, the amount of council tax. Some 40% of your council tax pays for public sector pensions. Yeah. I'm sorry for those people out there who've got public sector pensions. I don't. That was the days when public sector get paid less than the private sector. So they gave them a good pension, some stability in their life afterwards, right? Now you see the public sector get paid equivalent or more than the private sector and still enjoying these even more gold-plated pensions and golden parachutes and stuff, you know. I've got a two-word response to that. My pension comes first before your one. You know, and they're giving these people treating money like confetti. When you let, sorry, we're getting political here, you give a socialist a bank balance and they'll lose the money, they'll just lose the money, you know. But I mean, it's the same with conservatives, you know, in this country. But the money's just disappearing, they're not answering questions. And you ask them for, I need a detailed breakdown of my council tax, every penny where it's going to. I'm entitled to get that, absolutely. You're saying I'm a surety under law, I've got an obligation. Well, I want a breakdown of it. And you get abbreviated nonsense, what that council tax is going to. No, I mean, I'm not paying until I get it. If again this is a private company, you tell me piss off. If they couldn't give you an itemised bill, well, that's the other thing as well, we've already confirmed that. When they send through a bill, it's not a bill. I've got that written writing now from them. I've forced the council to confirm this isn't a bill, right, it's a demand. Private. It's not a bill, right? They say, but we commonly use the term bill. That's called fraud. But you can't take it for fraud because fraud is a criminal act. A criminal act requires intent. A corporation, you all know that, yeah? People say we're going to bring a company to court, you can't do it. Court for fraud. Criminal act requires to prove intent, okay? A corporation has no mind and can have no intention.
Civil fraud.
You've got to go for, you've got to go for the company directors. And see when you're going for another area, I'm not going to talk much now, but to bring to your attention, is these debt collection agencies who have been harassing people and getting in there using all sorts of devious, illegal ways of extracting money from me through menaces, right? Read up on professional negligence. You don't go for the agent who are doing it, you go for the managing director of these bastards, right? And this is where we can take them on. I've had some successes with this. As soon as you start mentioning professional negligence and ask them to prove they've confirmed, because maybe they've got a duty to do due diligence under money laundering regs, right? So if you're doing business with an organisation, you must do due diligence to check where the money's going to, where they exist. There's nothing money laundering going there, right? They must comply, so it's a statutory obligation on them. Ask them, have you checked? You're collecting this money from me on behalf of, you know, whatever, such and such council. Have you confirmed this council is the actual body authorised to collect it, to be doing this, to administer it in the first place? Have you checked where that money is going to? Blah, 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 blah. There's a list there, I won't go into details. But it's quite a short list. And I need to see you've carried out your due diligence. Again, the quality assurance manual will require that they undertake due diligence. I need confirmation from yourself in writing that you've carried out your due diligence. They go away. That's against the man. You go for the chief executive or the managing director personally. Don't go for individuals. Don't go for the lower ranks. With the councils, local authorities. With local authorities, don't speak to the people that's written to you. Always write back to the chief executive. They are what's called under. Have you all read the Criminal Convention on Corruption? The UK comes straight from the EU, and the EU wouldn't let the UK change any wording of it. Those two were issued to you, offered to the UK for signing. There was the EU Criminal Convention on Corruption and the Civil Convention on Corruption. Britain opted not to sign the civil one because they had to shut down the City of London that day, yeah? So they opted not to sign that one. This UK Criminal Convention on Corruption, and section 19 of that makes it quite clear that the natural person, using their terminology. The natural person can be held liable for activities of the legal person. Okay, now we do have criminal law there, that does outline it. And the person they take action against is the one who's acting as agent for or attorney for, which is us, which is, and they're managing directors and directors. Anyone acts as an agent for them at a senior level, in other words, a directing mind, a deciding mind. Yeah. So if you read that section 18, it's pretty clear. It's absolutely crystal clear. We need to go for the individuals. Professional negligence is brutal for them.
Did that come out after the proto murder? Did that come out after the motu proprio from the Pope?
I don't do the religious stuff.
Oh right, no, it's a letter that the Pope wrote that's saying that these people in powers of
Yeah, it was
position.
in 2009, I believe it was.
2013.
Yeah, it was before that.
Yeah, oh right, okay. Because that sort of like puts it back in and sort of like solidifies it really.
I don't quote, I mean, personally, I don't quote the Pope, man.
Oh no, it's just like a document that's out there.
Yeah, I think he's part of the problem, not the solution for it. People sitting there saying the Pope's saying a good thing. There's two Popes at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, again, a regime change in there, and he's, you know, anyway, he's not selling himself to me or anyone else out there. The only people I trust is me and my wife. That's at my eyes, what I think, you know. But yeah, no, people take whatever authorities you want, guys, and run with it. You know, it's your own personal struggle, and go for it. So there you go. Is there any more questions?
So we'd, if we're going to go for the CEOs of the debt collectors, the bailiffs, etc. There's two areas.
7 junctions on them. 7 junctions on them.
Right. But there's two immediate areas. One of them is what you just said. Is that they probably haven't done the due diligence to know that the people that have instructed them
in compliance with the money laundering regulations.
Yeah. True creditor. Yeah. But there's another thing. They're always adding their fees.
Yes.
And then claiming that the debt has risen too.
Yes.
But there's never been a court order telling them what their fees can be.
Yeah. So hold on, right? I'm just talking about council tax here, right? I agree with you. What they're doing with the warrants is this why they say it's in the office, because they've added their fees onto it. That's not part of the warrant.
They do council tax bailiffs as well.
They can't. How can they? There's no liability order. I've just already said there. It says in there they can only proceed with collections once they've got a liability order. It says in the regulations to the word, to the letter, once the liability order, then they can proceed with collections. Where's the liability order? Without that, there's no collections. You can't collect, but there's no liability order. And a county court can't issue any decisions based on a document that doesn't exist.
I've been in court when the magistrates would turn around and say, yes, we have warned you of the liability order.
Yeah.
I've actually heard them saying that. So you're actually saying there's no actual documentation?
No, what they're saying has been recorded as a decision on the register. Fine. That doesn't say that in there though.
Oh, right, so we've got to actually give you...
And this judge agrees with it. It doesn't say that in there either. They've agreed with that. The letter of the regulation says allowed on issuance of a liability order. Those words, issuance of a liability order. Not a register, not a memorandum, not an extract, not a bulk complaint or a booklet of a liability order.
All you ever do is to get rid of notice.
And don't forget, remember they're talking about the costs here when it comes important. If they try and argue, well, we're talking about a bulk liability order. It doesn't say that the costs. The costs have got to be calculated individually. So that's countering. They're interpreting it to suit them, whereas this judge and our common sense says no, what they're doing, they're misinterpreting, deliberately misinterpreting it. I don't care how much money the council tax collections cost them. I really don't give a damn how much it costs to calculate each person's cost. It's the law.
But as the magistrate, I mean, has he got a right to put a liability order on you, like, or say you've got to pay so many £100?
There's a big question, does he?
You stand there, don't you, and go, right.
Yeah, if I challenge their authority to do that, because I this new regime, I refuse to be governed by them. So that's another...
There is a bit of information about that, because, you know, if you look in Stone's Justice's Manual, and then there are the instructions as to the issuances of summonses, in the civil chapter, it says that the person in the court that issues the summons, their due diligence must show that the court has the power to issue the order applied for.
Yeah. Do you know what's audited?
And it's my belief is that the court doesn't have that power.
Yeah, I don't believe they've got either. There's another big question, another thing for you, Barry, just to
because it actually decides that you're a debtor.
Yes.
And the magistrates' courts haven't got jurisdictions to do that.
They don't.
the county courts seem to, but these magistrates don't.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. I don't think they've got authority. They're just bumbling along.
And that's why if you
terrified.
ever do get a liability order, it's printed by the council,
Yeah.
pretending that the magistrates' courts have made that decision.
Well, we've been told there's MPs down in London just now calling this a great scandal, waiting for it to break. They are terrified when this breaks. The MPs know about this, right? They've got their head buried in the sand. They don't want to be the one who's held to the front, so they're all sitting there quite going, okay. If you go to the Royal Courts of Justice, the minute you start talking to a master, you mention council tax. It's happened to me twice. There was one of the barristers down there, a lips barrister. Anyway, you mentioned council tax. No, don't hear it. Right, so to get talking to Master, he's a nice guy by the way, had to bring in the local paper. Talk to your local papers, we've done it, get a story in the local paper. We're in Wigan, the local papers not with us now. They know a story's about to break, they're hungry to break the story. Don't go for the big journalists, don't waste the time. Go for the local journalists, they want to be the one that breaks the story. This is a life break, this is a awards level story for them. Sell it on that basis. Back
When
to
it
this as well.
comes to liability orders, most people, what they receive is a notice
Yes.
liability order. It's basically a letter saying we have
That's
one.
fraudulent.
We have one.
That's fraudulent.
But you never receive the liability order, you just receive a notice. Basically a letter saying, hey, we've got a liability order.
Who is
Well,
the
if you have
person?
one, where is it?
Who is the individual that authorised the issuance of that notice liability order? I can see a copy of your quality assurance manual resulting in that document being issued. What shall not want to answer that question? You get an injunction to force them to release that part of the quality assurance manual. When you go and ask to inspect it, it's your quality assurance manual, you paid for it, you can go and inspect it. Follow the process to issue the results and issues of a notice of liability order, issuance document, and I'll bet you in there it says they must inspect the liability order first before they can issue that, I'll guarantee it. Just a quick one as well, sorry. Auditing. Are you aware the obligations these people have gotten for auditing purposes? Right, we're not taking them on this is where they really are weak, yeah? They are auditable in result, from the point of view of any oversight or any governance of them, plus the financial side, they're fully auditable. Council tax is not on the books, it's called off-balance sheet. This is the CAFR thing. It's off-balance sheet, we've got that confirmed, right? It's kept in hard copy, it's not the system, it's kept in hard copy. Hence why there's no liability orders. It's kept in hard copy, so they can go, look, you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. So when they get audited, the council tax in the magistrate's court is not part of their auditing process. Who's auditing it? Right, that's, well, I'm going down, that's another injunction, give me, tell me who audits it, right? We can keep doing, slap these things, but injunctions are cheap. 35 to 150 quid or something like that, it depends what you want to do. Cheap as chips, worth every penny. Because all you need is one. That opens the floodgates. When there's one to go through, it opens the floodgates. So who's auditing? Where does this money go? And this is all down to money regulations and money laundering. And you have an obligation, an absolute obligation under criminal law to refuse to make payment until you've been satisfied. You personally have been satisfied. None of that money is going to end up laundered or in the hands of criminals, terrorists, all the bad stuff. Yeah, you have an obligation under law. You don't you know this stuff. Now you do, and you don't start complying with your obligations and money laundering regulations, you are now breaking the law. There you go. And you find that, as I say, the UK Criminal Convention and Corruption Section 19 supports you on that one. And this trumps the magistrates' court. This trumps what they're doing. This is top level tier stuff now. You can go to special operations, police, criminal, terrorist police.
So, I can't see the courts issuing such an injunction.
Why not?
Well, if they're running away from the council tax question.
If you go to senior, we are doing, when you go to the senior courts, you've seen here that she makes it quite clear, if it's the letter of the law, they will decide upon the letter of the law.
Yeah.
Right? If you're asking for a decision about the law itself, that's not what she's there to do. She's making it clear the regulations state that. She's clarifying it does mean that, not what the council has interpreted, or more importantly in this case, the magistrates' court have misinterpreted it, and she's corrected their misinterpretations. Right? So the regulations that are written by the word by word is what they've got to comply with.
So
you might disagree with the regulations.
an injunction to get them to comply with the letter of the law.
You can do that. I mean, it's up to you. You have to do it on injunctions. There's very little out there on injunctions. I've got a couple of decent books on the subject. Or you can do it through, I mean, if all you need is one injunction. So just slap that one injunction on, pay a barrister to do the injunction for you. get it right first time. Pay a barrister to do it for you, pay a lawyer to do it for you. If you want to get it right first time, fuck it, I'm doing it myself. You know, I mean, the rich guys, and I've spoken to somebody who's very, very, very wealthy, and he was laughing, he says, yeah, different you and me is having junkied everybody round about me. Everybody's scared to talk to me. Everybody next to him talks to me and jumps him. So he's got like a perimeter of injunctions round about him. You're not doing that. So anyway, I'll leave it to that. Unless there's any more questions, I'll leave it to that. But thanks for coming today, guys. Much appreciated.
Debt Free TV, in association with GetOutOfDebtFree.org.